How do I engage my group members? Part 6. Hi, I'm Louise Fischier and welcome to our OTGrow YouTube channel. So if group therapy is a passion of yours and if you feel it's a calling, then you've come to the right place, because here at our YouTube channel, we discuss tips, tools, and techniques how to effectively facilitate long-term change, sustainable change for our clients, and to really enhance our group therapy facilitation skills. So this is going to be our last of the series on little tips, small tips that have a massive impact on engaging group members more. So we're going to have a look at the last one today. And the last one is to work in the here and now. So if we're honest with ourselves, we can't really make changes about the past, or what happened in the past is in the past. And although we can decide about our future and we can have some idea of what our future might hold, the truth is that we can't really do anything about our future. We can choose our attitude towards it, and we can choose our behaviors now that might impact our future, but we can't really change anything in our future except what we're doing now. And so working in the here and now is very much focused on here and now. So when we talk about working in the here and now, the here part means here between these group members. We're not focused on relationships outside of this group circle of or cohesion of the group. We're not interested in colleagues or friends or partners or children or parents or whatever. We are focused here in this group between these 12 or 10 or how many group members, and now meaning that whatever happens in the group is our focus. All the dynamics in this group now is our focus, not on things of the past or things that are in the future, but only the things right now. So what happens is a group will start to become disengaged the more people start telling about stories that are outside the group. Because even though I might listen to your story and you matter to me, but eventually I don't know who this person is that you keep talking about. I've got no frame of reference for them. I might commiserate with what you're saying, and I might have empathy, or I might identify with your situation. But more you actually start talking about it, the more I'm going to disengage, because I've got no stake in that person. That person is not relevant to me. I don't even know who they are. They are important to you, but for me, they're not really important. And the more the focus becomes on that person instead of the person telling the story, the more the group will disengage. And especially in scenarios where the group facilitator might say, well, tell us about a time when somebody really deeply hurt you. And it maybe in the first one or two people are engaged, but the more the sharing continues, the more the group members disengage, because we're going outside the group. We're going to the then and there. And there's no frame of reference for the people inside the group except the person who's telling the story. And so that's why disengagement happens, because there is nothing in the story for me. What does it mean for me in any case? And sometimes people might think also, oh, if you can just shorten your story, then actually we don't need to listen to it and we can leave earlier, finish with our groups earlier. So it is imperative for group facilitators to keep asking, how do I bring the conversation or whatever's happening back to the here in this group with these group members, and now in this time frame, not the past and not the future. All right, so how do we do that? The first thing is to really be observant of any reactions that clients might have while participating in activities. So remember, one of our tips was get clients involved in activities or get them moving. So here you're observing what's going on. So when you start in your post activity discussion, you can bring up those things that happen in the group. I noticed you were very uncomfortable with this. When somebody did that, you seemed to withdraw, whatever the case may be. And so you are talking about things in this activity. we're not talking about the ethereal idea of trust and the idea of trusting people. We're talking about here in this moment, could you trust this person in this activity? And if not, what happened? Where did you feel it? What happened? What were in your thoughts? What was in your body? What was in your emotions? That we can talk about. And that is everybody in the group has a stake in that, because we were part of your experience. And when you reference certain things, we can say, oh, yes, I saw that happen. Oh, yes, I heard her say that. So I am, I do have some, what is the word I'm looking for? Not only stake in it, but I have a frame of reference for whatever you are discussing, and that will keep me engaged. All right, so constantly asking yourself, how do I bring what is happening or what's being discussed back into the here and now? All right, so maybe it can be when some of your clients are busy explaining something of the past, something that happened. You might be discussing trust, and they might say, oh, that reminds me, when I was this old and this happened, and, and the trust was so deeply broken, and, I didn't see it coming or whatever. I felt betrayed. What's important, that is a story in the then and there. So how do we bring it back into the here and now? And you can do it by asking different questions. One of the questions that you can use is, what do you want to hear? What do you want the group to hear about this? Or what do you want to bring in the group's awareness around this? So it's not coincidental that they are telling this story right here, right now in the group. But they're using a story to convey a message that they actually want to say to the group. And if we want group members to keep being engaged, remember we said the story has no frame of reference to some of them maybe, we need to make sure that it comes back into the group. So by telling the story, what did you want the group to hear? What is the reason behind you telling the group this story? What is in your frame of reference right now that made you connect something that happened in the group with a story? We want to hear that link. And that is how you would facilitate, by asking that question. All right, so initially the group might not know, well, I just wanted to tell the story. And it might be that you as a facilitator need to guide the process. So you could say, I'm wondering if you wanted to bring in awareness that people we trust can hurt us deeply, or that there's no guarantee that the people we trust deeply might end up betraying us. So to try and take the essence of the story they're telling us, see if you can condense it into a sentence and give it back to them. And it's important that they then agree or disagree with that statement. And they might say, no, it's not about that. I actually just wanted to say I've really been deeply hurt in the past, and I'm scared about trusting people again. But now we've brought the conversation into the group. Can you see the difference? All right. We can even take it a step further, and we can say, all right, now that you're talking about trust and that you've trust and people have hurt you very deeply, we can say, who do you want to hear this in the group? In other words, who are we want to direct this communication to? Remember, when people speak directly to each other, they become more engaged. So is there a way that we can start that conversation? So who in this group do you want to say that to? Maybe it's somebody that you think is going to break your trust or is going to hurt you. Or maybe it's somebody that you want to warn and say, be careful with what you're sharing, because you don't know what we're going to be doing with this information. But now we're bringing it in the here and now. And now we can actually have a conversation around that, and everybody in the group will be engaged, because what happens in this group matters to every single person. All right, so you can say, to who in the group do you want to say this? Or who in the group specifically do you want to hear this? So that's another step how we can do it. Take the story that's in the then and there and bring it in the here and now. If the story, for instance, is about poor boundaries, you can ask, who in the group do you think has good boundaries? That's maybe if you have a group that is still in the forming or maybe early storming phase, and you don't want to elicit a massive conflict or storming at the moment, but it's a way to bring what is being explained or in a story form back into the group. So let's see, who do you think has good boundaries? And let's hear from that person. So we're facilitating installation of hope. We're facilitating imparting of information. How does that person manage to hold their boundaries? And that person then gives feedback to the person telling the story to say, well, you know how I manage my boundaries. Well, you know what I suggest you do. We have direct communication, which also engages people. Or if you have a group that's very cohesive and you want to facilitate interpersonal learning, you can switch that question more to a potentially uncomfortable question, but we want to facilitate uncomfortable or difficult conversations, especially if our groups are cohesive. We know that they will be okay. And so we might ask, who in the group do you think has problems with their boundaries? Or who in the group do you think is going to overstep your boundary? And let's give feedback. What about this person makes you say that? And then to make sure that the feedback is very specific around things that happened in the group. We're not going to talk about things outside the group. Remember in yesterday's group when you said that, I took it as this and this and this. That makes me feel very uncomfortable or unsafe with you. So again, do you see, we are focused on these group members, what happens between them. Now you're going to tell me, yes, but that's not the now because it happened yesterday and you're referring to that. Yes, that is true, but we're talking about it now and everybody still has a stake because it is within this group that happened. And so you can see how we are facilitating curative factors, also bringing people in, bringing other group members into this conversation, that it doesn't end up being a monologue from one person telling a story in the then and there. And that's how the group becomes more engaged. All right, small little tip. How do I bring what is being said from the outside back into my group? And group members will become more engaged. All right, that brings us to the end of our series. So just to recap, how do I get my group to engage more? 6 tips. Take yourself out of the situation so they don't talk with you, through you, and you don't hijack the group session. Use I language, as in I feel, I think, I experience, that each client takes ownership of what they say. Facilitate direct communication. You upset me when you said this because I experienced XYZ. Direct communication using I and you in that language. The 4th tip, get the group moving or engaged in activity, because then they have to do. They are going to be almost facilitated to engage instead of passively just sitting and listening. The 5th tip was listen to the group's needs. If you're not sure what that entails, please go and have a listen to our previous YouTube clip episode where we spoke about listening to the group's needs and how you go about doing that. And lastly is to make sure that you work in the here and now. Great. I hope that just these 6 small tips is already going to prove to have a massive impact in your group and how you will experience them engaging, and the depth of your group will plummet really meaningfully when you apply these couple of tips. So if you want us to discuss similar topics, please pop it in the comments. If you have questions around any of these tips, please also put them down and we will get back to you. If there are other topics that you are wondering how you can achieve something or whatever, please send those through to us and we will try our best to be able to answer your questions. All right, so we'll see you again next week. Happy facilitating.